one of the things you wrote in your book was the military intelligence and the intelligence community, when Biden was creating this plan for withdrawal, that they told him from the get-go in no uncertain terms, this was like a consensus, that his plan was going to fail, that it was going to be a disaster. So it wasn't like the intelligence community in this case was misinforming him and that he could almost shrug and say, well, they told me, my military generals told me this would work. It just ultimately didn't. People were telling him it wouldn't work. So my question to you is, who exactly was behind this decision to say, we're going to disregard all of this military advice, all of the reports from the intelligence community, and go ahead knowing that this is going to be a disaster? Like, I want to name names here.
It's a great question. And honestly, like, I think that a lot of times questions get raised about President Biden's age, his fitness for office, whether he's in control of everything at the White House. And I think oftentimes those questions are probably legitimate. But when it comes to Afghanistan, this was President Biden, top to bottom, start to finish. This was his decision. This is what he wanted. He made this a very early priority of his. I mean, we had someone in the know tell us that one of his very early meetings in the White House, he was just asking, how quickly can we get out? This was President Biden's decision, and the general, his U.S. military leadership was telling him, if you just pull all U.S. troops immediately with no plan about how to get Americans out, no plan about how to get our Afghan allies out, no plan about how to keep the Afghan military on the battlefield fighting to keep the Taliban at bay, because keep in mind, the Afghan military, already very weak and shaky, relied upon, was built around, in fact, U.S. military support. And so pulling U.S. troops meant pulling contractors, pulling logistics, pulling ISR, pulling advisors. Everything that we had designed the Afghan military around, all of that was pulled immediately. April 14th is when Biden made his decision. And July 2nd, we closed our final base, Bagram. So you can see in that tiny window, we were here and we were gone. And another thing to keep in mind, and this is bizarre in so many ways, is President Biden, in his April 14th speech where he made this announcement, he declared September 11th, 2021 as the final day to get U.S. troops out. That would be the final day, right? The final withdrawal date. That's crazy for so many reasons, of course, because I think that everybody heard him say September 11th, 2021, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I mean, why are you picking that day? I mean, the Taliban are the ones that harbored the al-Qaeda terrorists who hit the U.S. on 9/11. So it was a political move. I think he was trying to get some sort of victory lap out of it, but I don't really get it. But it wasn't strategic, it was political. And it was actually the opposite of strategic, because picking that date, he decided to pull all U.S. troops right in the middle of Afghan fighting season. And we had been there for 20 years. We know that the Taliban is at its strongest and most effective in the spring and the summer. If there's any time that you're not going to do a retrograde, it's the spring and the summer. But that's exactly when he did it. And so by picking September 11th, 2021 as the deadline to pull U.S. troops out, what Biden actually ensured was that by the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the terrorist group that harbored al-Qaeda and never broke its alliance with al-Qaeda, the Taliban, would be in charge on that 20th anniversary.